So Elizabeth has invited me. In fact, we talked about doing this presentation on stress management months ago before everything hit the fan and there was so much stress in everybody's lives, right, Elizabeth?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely, especially around this
So
time of year anyway, with the
exactly. It's
midterms and
usually
finals.
stressful anyway, but it's usually stressful for different reasons. We're usually stressed out because we have so much to do. And it's not that we have less to do, um, but we're stuck at home, right? And we don't,
Yeah, right now that the stress, it's a
yeah.
stressor for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was as I was thinking about this presentation, I thought about some of the different things that I've learned over the years as a social worker and as a social work director, and in working with people. I've worked with a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of stress. I mean, that's just kind of a go-to thing. If you're a social worker, that's the reason people act out is they're coping with stress in their lives, and they may have coping mechanisms that aren't working really well and making their lives more difficult. So I actually came up, Elizabeth, I came up with the top 10 tips for dealing with stress management. Are you ready?
I am ready. That sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay, here we go. So the first thing I thought of was right now, it's really important that we establish a routine, that we have something that we have a reason to get out of bed. I have to admit, it is hard to get out of bed when I don't need to go to the office, and so making sure that you have a routine, and everybody's routines have changed, right? Has yours changed, Elizabeth?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a little bit. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
not just a lot, but a little bit.
I mean, I just look in my closet and I'm like, yeah, there's no use for any of that anymore. I right
Yeah, all
now,
the nice clothing.
yeah, right now I'm wearing one of my more dressy jackets, but I mean, you can tell on the video I'm wearing it over a t-shirt because I'm
I
wearing,
actually don't see you on a video.
yeah, well, you'll see it. You'll see it when it's a YouTube video. But anyway,
Oh,
so
sure. Yes.
establishing a
Okay.
routine, making sure that you're getting up, brushing your teeth, doing the things that you do in a normal part of your life, that you're including the things that you've established that are routine that you do. And sometimes if you maybe you need to recreate that routine. So, Elizabeth, how have you done that in your life? How have you recreated a routine now that your husband's at home with you, you're working from home? Your only other company is chickens, right?
No, I have dogs and cats,
Oh, and dogs and oh,
so rabbits.
good, good.
Yeah.
So animals kind of force you to have a routine, don't they?
A little bit, yeah. I gotta
Yeah.
make sure they're fed every morning and all of that good stuff. Watered, fed. I have a garden I just started too, so I water that in the morning too.
Gardens are good. Gardens are definitely good.
Yes, yes.
So the second thing that I thought of is give yourself rewards for that. The things that you're doing. It's important that we all challenge ourselves a little bit and do some difficult things every day. And for right now, for a lot of us, if you've lost your job, if you're at home, it might be hard to get out of bed. So give yourself a reward for those little things that you do every day. Um, Make sure that you're finding some of that basic satisfaction in your life. The third thing, and I think this one's really important, is lower your expectations. Lowering your expectations is going to help in every aspect of your life. So, you're not only going to lower your expectations of those around you, but maybe lower your expectations of yourself for a little bit. Things don't have to be perfect. You don't have to. And I've done this with the way I've done this with my college students is I have eliminated any points off for their late assignments. So they can turn in an assignment pretty late and I'm not going to dock their grade for that. And I did that because I recognize it's such a stressful time for everybody. I don't want my students feeling overwhelmed by their work. I want it to be something that's part of their routine. And now one of my fellow professors said, "Oh, you can't do that because you got to get stuff graded." And so one of the things that I've done is I've said, "Okay, I have eliminated your late fee, basically. However, there will be a day of reckoning. I have to get the grades in eventually. So do them as timely as you can. But what that has done is it's lessened the stress for students. So they're not, scrambling on Sunday night to get stuff done, and they can do things in their time. How have you lowered your expectations for yourself, Elizabeth?
I don't think of that. Basically, like if I'm gonna do something, I'll get it done eventually. It just sometimes it'll take me a little longer. I do make sure I get dressed every day because of the routine thing, but I don't necessarily put on, the same thing I'd wear at the office. But
Right.
It's still fully clothed. Like I'm not
Yeah.
just, wearing like a pair of
Yeah.
cut off shorts or something, but
Yeah.
I still make sure,
Get out of pajamas and put on a bra, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
very
Even if
important.
it's not fully clothed and ready to go out in public, I'm dressed. I am fully dressed.
There you go. There you go. The next thing that I thought would be important and this is basically, something I've gleaned not just from reading and from studying psychology and human behavior related topics, but also just from watching the news and that kind of thing. And that is, and I think it's ironic that watching the news tells us to limit our technology, but they do. And I've found that's good for me. If I limit my technology and give myself a few hours every day where I don't have my cell phone in my hand, I'm off my laptop, then it seems like I'm able to kind of reground myself, reconnect with what's with the people around me, and I think that's pretty important. Number 5.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments about that, Elizabeth?
I could just say that I notice I feel different now because, of course, being at home all the time and finding ways to entertain yourself, you're like scrolling
Right.
Facebook or Instagram,
Right.
or a lot of people now use TikTok or whatever. And it seems like being on that or playing video games or being on your computer, all of those things, it makes me feel more tired.
It does. It wears you out.
I think which I did take a walk last week. It was just in my yard.
Uh-huh.
About an acre, so I just walked in circles. But that felt really good. And so, if you can get out and just be in the fresh air, even if you can, without being around a bunch of people, I think that is a good break from.
Yeah, you must have read my notes. That was the next tip: is do something physical. Do something physical. And I don't know, I live in Las Vegas and a pretty close community in that the houses are right next to each other, and doing something, getting out and getting in the sunlight isn't always I don't know that I feel really safe doing that. And the other challenge that I have is my husband's a physician, so he's bringing home germs from work. And then my sister-in-law, who's a nurse, just moved in with us. And so I have 2 healthcare professionals living in my home. So it's not just that I don't want to catch coronavirus. I don't want to expose people to it if for some reason I find out that I'm a carrier. And so that kind of, if I do go out, I definitely wear a mask. And I have gone on some walks with my niece and my little grandboys that live close by. And that's been I don't know, for me, it's been a little bit stressful too. I feel a little stressed to do that. So one of the things that we've done at our house that has kind of helped with that physical aspect, that tip, is we created an exercise routine while we watch the news. So like if they say coronavirus, we have to do 5 leg lifts. If they say COVID-19, we have to do 5 jumping jacks, that kind of thing, So we have this whole,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's kind of made it fun. So we have this whole list of words, and my husband and sons and I, so we're jumping, and I'm like, come on guys, it's time to watch the news. And part of the reason that I did that is because my husband was getting really stressed out watching the news. He's not somebody who really enjoys television all that much anyway. And I really I want to be informed. I want to know what's going on. And so, his go-to stress relief is usually physical activity. He's a marathon runner, that kind of thing anyway. And so this kind of helped him have something fun to do while I got to watch the news. So, but But yeah, I mean, you'd be amazed the phrases you can come up with and the the workout that you can get by doing that. So that's been kind of a fun thing that we've done. The next
I
tip
like
that I
that.
have, yeah, I put it on Facebook. A lot of people really liked it. The next tip I have is recognize that it's okay to grieve the loss that we've all experienced right now. And I read that and I thought, yeah, I do a whole presentation on grief. And one of the definition of grief is basically loss. It's how we respond to loss in our lives. And all of us have experienced a measure of loss right now. We've lost freedom. A lot of us have lost income. We've lost that stability that we had in our culture. I mean, everything that a lot of us have done, in the last several years of our lives in building careers has been based on something that's kind of, it's tenuous now, and we're not sure what's going to happen. So that's important to recognize. It's okay to recognize that all of us are grieving right now. And just the same way that you grieve when you lose someone that you care about, it's okay to grieve the fact that we've all experienced this deep loss. And then there's the fear connected with, oh, and I could lose somebody that I really care about. And just that stability is something that all of us are grieving. The next thing that I have is do something creative. Are you doing anything creative right now, Elizabeth, to deal with the stress you're experiencing?
I've got a couple of things that I would call creative. One of them is a video game called The Sims, but I love creating Sims. They're one of my
Oh,
favorite things to do.
cool. Yeah.
And then the other thing is I actually just downloaded Duolingo. And there's actually a few things that I didn't realize how much Spanish that I still remember when I took it in college.
Wow.
I can usually answer quite a few of the things pretty well, but retaining it and actually being able to speak it obviously is a different thing. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm just trying to, I don't know, do stuff with my mind.
That's great.
Keep my mind a little bit more occupied. So.
It sounds like you're turning this whole coronavirus quarantine thing into kind of a Groundhog Day experience. Do you know that movie? You know what I'm talking about?
I know the movie, but I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, well, the whole point of the movie is that he's able to get out of that repeating the same day after day after day, because he makes his life better. He makes himself, instead of just sitting around and moping the fact that he has to relive this day over and over again, he changes himself and makes himself a better person. Sounds like that's a little bit what you're doing right now.
Well, I am certainly trying to.
That is awesome.
It's a
Good
little
for you.
different, just with routine changing and everything. It's
Oh,
difficult sometimes.
oh, I hear you. And
Really try.
before we started recording, you and I were talking about some of our coping mechanisms, and I told you that I'm a big reader. If I'm experiencing stress or something I want to know about, I turn to books. And and that's been kind of the pattern in my entire life. Back when
Right.
we would go to libraries to get books, I'd bring home a whole stack. When my sister had twins, I brought home every book I could find on twins and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I've recognized is, I'm reading everything in sight, but I want to write too. And so I kind of pulled up a few books that I've been playing with, and that's what I'm doing. That's the creative outlet I'm doing, is working on writing. So yeah, something creative. Okay, the next thing is recognize that the coping mechanisms that we've used in the past, whether they've been good or bad, are likely to increase during times of stress. So I have a really good friend who's a recovering alcoholic, and he was telling me he is so glad he is in recovery now, because he sees friends and colleagues who are drinking more than ever. And so that can, those coping mechanisms that might not have worked. And I see people joking about that kind of thing, but be aware that it's going to be, if there's some kind of an addiction issue that you've had in your past, that could definitely spring up at a time like this when all of us are dealing with such pervasive stress.
Right.
Number 8 is connect with others. And so I'm really glad you asked me to do this, and I'm glad you didn't cancel it, even though it's very different than how we originally planned this presentation to be.
Right.
Because, we're connecting, and even though we're connecting just you and I, and we don't have a classroom full of students, hopefully they'll see this video, and that's a way that we can connect. I find that I'm connecting with others more. I'm calling people that maybe I haven't called in a while. I'm texting people. One of the things that I've recognized, a way that I can connect, is I found, I was feeling pretty down the other day, and I'm like, gosh, I got to do something. I got to do something for somebody else. That always makes me feel better when I do something for somebody else. And of course, that's kind of a knee-jerk reaction for every social worker. But I'm not practicing social work right now. I'm teaching it. So what I did is every time I graded a paper, I would send an encouraging message to a student. And then I just, even if they didn't respond back, I felt a sense of connection. What are you doing, Elizabeth? What are you doing to connect with others?
Well, I go to a church, and of course, church has pretty much been canceled for the foreseeable future. But there was at least one text group that I'm in, so I sent a text the other day to try to say, hey, how's it going? I miss you guys.
Yeah.
And then, just with my students, the other day, I just messaged everybody. I checked everybody's students' counts, and I was checking to make sure, everything seemed to look good. I asked how they were doing with the transition. And again, like you said, you may not get responses, but at least I'm trying. I'm trying to reach out and trying to get them to connect. And my next step is actually calling all of them. So
that's great. Yeah. I actually have 2 scheduled phone calls today as well with students to do advising. And, that's the beauty of the work that we do, is that, especially since both you and I work from the Pahrump campus, we're kind of used to connecting with those outside of our campus, using technology, using the telephone, whatever we can to connect. So good. Okay, the very last tip that I have is do what you can to help. And I've noticed that some friends of mine are making masks, and that seems to give them not only a creative thing to do, but they feel like they're making a difference. They're helping people. One of the things that I did, I have elderly next door neighbors, and I've chatted with them a few times, and I realized they don't have my phone number, and so I wrote down mine and my husband's phone number on a little card, and I taped it to a package of toilet paper. And I left it on their front porch, and that just, that made me feel like, okay, if they need something, they can call us. I did wipe it down with Lysol too. But
there you go.
But if they need something, at least I know that they know that we're here, and we can, if they need somebody to go to the store or whatever. But anything that we can do, recognizing that everybody around us is experiencing stress in some kind of way. It's easy to get caught up in our own, but it seems that when we get outside of ourselves and help other people, then we're able to recover a little bit ourselves and lessen the stress that we're experiencing. So that's basically my 10 tips for stress management. And I don't know, do you have anything you want to share, Elizabeth? Any thoughts that have come into your head?
Those are all really good. I actually sent something last week, and let me see really quick if I can pull it up.
Oh, great.
Because my co-worker, I'll call her that, the other Gear Up person that is in Elko, she asked me if I had any tips for the students.
Oh.
I came up with a couple of things, and again, I'm just trying to see if I can find that. Okay, I think I found it. So
great.
Let's see. So basically, she said, "Are there any tips or encouragement?" And some of them are actually things that you mentioned, but making a schedule, keeping a routine, set aside me time, just time to think about yourself for a second, because it's hard to sometimes take care of yourself when you're in a panic mode or in a stress mode.
Right. And
Don't
I
necessarily, do that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that even when we're not in a national state of stress, that's something I talk with my students about. I have a lot of students who are young moms, and
Yeah.
it can be really challenging to try to be getting your degree and working and caring for kids. And then of course right now we have that all magnified because children that would normally be in school are at home and underfoot right now. So one of the things that I tell my students that are young parents and that are dealing with little kids and the stress of that is allow your education to be your me time. And the reason I know that works is because that's what I did. That's how I got through my undergraduate and my graduate degree, is that my studies was my time for myself. And so instead of thinking of your schoolwork as another stress that you have, if you think of it as a gift that you're giving yourself, you're bettering yourself. You're giving yourself the gift of education, which is incredible. And so that became my time that my kids knew, if mom's studying, we can go sit by her, we can grab our homework or a storybook or whatever, and we can go join her, but that's her time to focus on the stuff that's important to her. And that seems to really help my students when I remind them that me time can be your education.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point there. For mine, I was just giving the example, like, I know people can't really get out and go to the gym because a lot of the gyms are closed, if not all. They should all be, I think. But just do something at home those 3 days a week instead.
Right.
Put yourself in your room and do an exercise. Or if you're used to, like, a movie night with friends, see if you can video chat with them and watch the same movie, like, on Netflix or something.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just, I'm thinking of extrovert friends. Like, this stuff, I don't even, like, I'm an introvert.
Are you an introvert?
Yeah.
I think I'm a combination because some things are making me crazy right now, and other things I'm like, woohoo! I don't have to go. So yeah.
I didn't ever expect to miss going to the office as much as I do.
I know, right?
I'm doing the same things, but it just feels different when you actually leave your house.
Yeah, I know. It is. Yeah. It's very different, and I realize I miss just saying hi to people, seeing you, and just and just saying, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And just that,
Right.
connection. And so we have to figure out new ways to do that. So, all right, dear. Well,
the last thing that I have.
Oh yeah.
Is breathe.
Breathe. Thank you. This is important.
And,
yeah.
I found tons of videos on YouTube for mindfulness, yoga.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Just to try to calm your mind, calm your body.
Very nice.
And like, especially for us working at home, sometimes you're sitting in front of a computer and you're in a different chair than say the one at work. Because for me, that's been a big deal. Like, my back has been killing me, but I found stretches to do in the morning.
There you go. Yeah. I have my step aerobic step in front of my TV. So when I do all my when I do my word exercises, that's what I have my step right there, and so that's kind of that keeps my blood pumping. And I also, another thing that I do, since I'm at home so much, I have a 2-story house. And if I have to run downstairs, I don't hesitate to do it. If I have to run upstairs, I don't hesitate to do it. I think of it as a workout. So, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
All right, dear. Well, this has been fun. And all those students out there that watch this, hang in there, guys. This too will pass. I know we're kind of at the peak, or we're approaching the peak. And this next couple of weeks are going to be super challenging. My husband just found out one of his patients is being tested today. So, yeah. And so it's getting close, but it'll pass. And if you're a reader of history, that's one of the things. Like the students in my policy class, we're reading a lot about the history of social work and how it affects policy. You know, the things that happen in our environment affect the different policies in our government. And this is one of those things. So we're living kind of through an exciting period. We get to see history happen right in front of our eyes every single day. So that's kind of an exciting thing. But at the same time, it's important, if you look back and you study history, you recognize, you know what, we've been through worse and we can do this. We'll get through this. You know, our parents and grandparents survived wars. And, you know, if you look back even more so, you're like, wow, this is really not that hard. But at the same time, the last thing we want to do is minimize how challenging this is for a lot of us, because a big part of the challenge and the stress, I think, is the not knowing, you know, and the fear that happens from not knowing what's going to happen. And not knowing what to expect, because this is such a new thing. So yeah, one of the things that I do for fun is I read books on pandemic and watch every single movie about them, which is kind of a
Netflix and Hulu and all of them have put tons of those
everything.
Back out. It's so crazy.
Yep, it is. But I don't know. For me, it's like, you know, I want to understand it, and that I want to be able to talk about it, and to kind of be able to estimate, you know, be able to kind of predict where things are going to go and what's going to happen. And, you know, information is power. That's why we read. That's why we study history. So, all right, Elizabeth.
I was going to mention is there's so much information out there, and sometimes that can be overwhelming to sift through. But at the same time, you know, again, just step back, take a breath.
Yeah. And not everybody wants to hear everything.
Exactly.
So, some people are just like, you know what, I got to focus on this. I got to do a puzzle, you know, I've got to, you know, play the piano, whatever, you know. So, yeah. And I'll tell you, I told you I have these musical kids, and that's been a really wonderful thing to get me through. Is we do live Facebook every day. We're calling it a Corona concert. And so my boys do that, and that just gives me something. Yeah, it gives us something to look forward to, and, you know, I mean, they're pretty good, so it's entertaining, you know, a lot of my old friends. And so we're kind of doing that creativity thing plus connecting with others. And, you know, when people say things like Facebook are bad, I'm like, yeah, no, not if they're serving a purpose to help you connect with others.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. Well, Elizabeth, it's been great chatting with you. And I'm just going to sign off for our video. Whoops. Bye-bye now.